Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Kirsty.
And this is our podcast covering the highs, lows and realities of parenting a child with neurodiversity.
Each week we'll be sharing updates from our lives and hearing from a variety of guests about their advice and experiences.
This is Love Needs No Words. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Love Needs No Words. We're joined by Sarah Vernon, who was one of our first guests of the podcast. Your episode did really well, Sarah, and we thought listeners will want to know how things are going. So Sarah's daughter Briony is 5 years old, non-speaking, and received her diagnosis of autism early last year. So it's so lovely to have you back, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks. It's lovely to be back. God, I can't believe it was only last year she had a diagnosis. It feels like such a long time ago.
Yeah, it really does. And if you haven't listened to Sarah's first interview, you can do that ahead of this one. But for those that may not get a chance to do that, do you want to just talk us through a little bit about Briony?
Sure. So Briony she's 5, nearly 6. She's diagnosed autistic and she's currently non-verbal. She is at a mainstream school. Yeah, we've had a bit of a rocky road so far. She's a lovely little girl. She's the most affectionate little girl. She does interesting things every day. She surprises us every day, but she really struggles with crowds. She really struggles with unfamiliar situations and noise. So she found school quite difficult. We've known she was autistic for quite a long time before she was diagnosed. Mainly due to her lack of speech developing. But once we sort of started to realise that may be a sign of autism, we started to notice other things too. And she does quite a lot of stimming. She loves repetitive play. She loves doing things like lining up animals. She looks for, and toys, she looks for patterns and everything. Like she'll always put numbers in order and letters in alphabetical order and things like that. Yeah, in a lot of ways she's quite textbook autistic, and then in other ways I think she's not at all. Like she's not got particularly big sensory close issues. She's a very fussy eater, but not in a particularly typical way in terms of bland food. Her favourite food is pasta with homemade tomato sauce. And yeah, she's taught me a lot, I would say, but it has been an interesting journey.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the fact that it's been an interesting journey and not quite the path that we thought we were going to take.
Yeah, and having to adapt, you know, to a parent. You know, we never knew what to expect as parents, but I think we've had to adapt even more to deal with the ups and downs of raising a child with neurodiversity, for sure. When we last spoke, Briony hadn't started school, so talk us through a little bit about how that has been for you.
So she's been at school now for a little over a year. We chose this school because it had a really good reputation locally for SEND children, but it's not a specialist school. It is a mainstream primary school, and they told us very early on, I think it was about week 3, that Briony really shouldn't be in that school. She really needs a specialist school. They said it in a nicer way than that.
That still must have been hard to hear, though. Was that tough to hear?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I cried for days. Yeah. I really cried. I was really upset. And I think for me, we'd really fought to get her in there. It was a real battle, get the EHCP signed off in time. We really felt like it was the next step. We really felt like it was going to be good for her. And she was having a pretty good start to the year, and then to hear that so early on just felt like a real kick in the teeth. And it also really forced me to face up to what her future might look like. Because if she couldn't go to a mainstream school, what does that mean for adulthood? What does that mean for the rest of her life? And obviously we don't know the answers to this. You know, she's not even 6 yet. Briony at 6 will look very different to Briony at 16. But it was hard, and I think for me, it's a funny thing with having a child with neurodiversity, because there's a really fine line between being optimistic for their future and believing in them and wanting the best for them and wanting them to achieve everything they possibly can. And there's not really a nice way, but delusion. Because there is an element of hoping, and I definitely have gone through that journey with Briony where I was in denial and initially that she was autistic. I was I really felt like a mainstream school would be the right place. And I've just, and a lot of the journey has been these moments where I've had to kind of face up to the fact that the path I expected for her is not the path she's taking. And, I know Briony very well now. Briony will do things Briony's way. That's just who she is. And I always think it's funny when we chose her name, we really wanted a name that not everyone else has, because my husband and I have both very common names. And she just isn't like anyone else. And so I always felt like her name really suits her because she's just Briony. That's who she is. But it was really hard. And I feel like I'm in a much, much better place with it now. But one of the things that I've really, really become aware of is those moments where you look back and you realize that you went on a journey. And it's when you're in the journey, you don't know you're on a journey. But I think I went through a point last year where I believed in her, but I was really worried about her handling anything. And we started to look at specialist schools, and I've faced up. I've come to terms with the idea that a specialist school is the right place for her. But then started looking at the school, being like, is this severe enough? Is this going to be supportive enough? Would she be able to do this? And is she going to get the most out of this? And actually, she was going through a phase at school. She went through quite a long phase at school last year where she really, really, really struggled. We were getting calls almost every day, having to pick her up early. We were in there constantly for meetings, and the environment wasn't working for her. She was in absolute crisis mode. And she was just trying to communicate to us as best as she could that this isn't working. I just want to be in a safe place. And because she was in this crisis mode, we weren't really seeing any development in her and her skills, because she just was so stressed and so anxious all the time, having these huge meltdowns that she was just, up to us, we were all just surviving. And it was really, really difficult. Things started to calm down. The term before the summer holidays. She's a kid who loves the outdoors, and I think being able to go outdoors really helped her. I think the fact that the other kids could go outdoors also helped her, because in general there were more quiet spaces that she could go to. And then we started to see her developing again and doing interesting things and doing new things. And in the summer holidays, it felt like she was doing something new and interesting every single day. And it would be things like I'd say something and she'd echo the word back, making sounds that clearly meant something, which is something she wasn't doing. Or I would say something to her and it would be clear that she understood. Or I'd ask her to follow an instruction, she'd do it. Or she demonstrated that she'd really watched me do something and copy it. Like, for instance, she picked up an egg and hit it on the side of a bowl, which is quite a big thing to sort of watch. And for a child who doesn't cook, doesn't bake, doesn't even eat eggs, it's yeah, and all these little things were really adding up. And then she went back to school after the summer term, and actually they changed things up for her. They've given her kind of her own space. She's got a dedicated one-to-one now, and she's had a really, really good start to the term. But it is interesting looking back, because I can see now that I was at a point where I was like, yeah, just that hopefulness was kind of gone. And it sounds so horrible to say about your child, because parenting a child with neurodiversity is really, really difficult. And I think one of the things I always say when people say to me, oh, that must be really hard, is like, it is hard, but it's not my child that's the hard part. It's everything around her.
Yes.
The world is not made for her.
Yeah.
And the world is not set up for her. And the admin around having a SEND child, but also just getting her to stay in school and getting her to working out what the next step at school looks like, what a post school looks like, all of this stuff. The path isn't clear, and every step kind of does feel like a fight. As awful as it is, it's a constant fight. And I know you guys know this. So despite the fact that she's doing better at school now, she's not accessing the curriculum. It's closer to babysitting than learning, and she does really need to be in a specialist setting. And that's a fight in itself, because all the evidence is clear. She needs to be in a specialist school. Everyone that we've had come in to assess her and the reports on her has backed this up. They've seen her in those moments at her absolute worst, when she's having a huge meltdown at school. She's really, really struggling. And yet we are not getting the council to agree. And the frustrating thing is, it's not that they disagree. They're not saying we think she's fine. She's doing loads. She's doing great. They can absolutely see all the evidence, but they're just telling us to wait and see how she goes, give it longer to implement the advice you've had, etc. And it's not going to magically get better. We know this now. We're aware of this, but we have to kind of grit our teeth and go through these delaying tactics and show how far we're willing to go and how far we're willing to fight and how much money we're willing to spend to get Briony the education that she is entitled to and she deserves. And until she gets that, she's not going to develop to her full potential. And it's frustrating because the older she gets, the harder it's going to be for her to learn the things that she needs to do. And obviously we're trying our best, but it's really difficult and frustrating and hard.
I feel really angry for you just listening to that, because to hear watch and wait when you quite well know that your child doesn't feel psychologically safe in school, isn't developing as they could and should be given the opportunity to, just does not feel like a justifiable answer by any stretch of the imagination. And I feel angry for you just listening to it.
It's
And
maddening.
As a friend as well, because obviously we've followed your journey as friends, and when you went to panel last time, there was absolutely no more evidence that you could have collated to back what you were saying. And I mean, you said to me, didn't you, I can't even voice message you right now. I am in that much of a state, because you'd worked so hard over however many months to get as much as you could. You invest your time, you invest your money, and then to find out that all wasn't enough. And there'll be so many parents listening that are going through this at the moment. Talk us through, like, how does that feel when you kind of feel, I mean, we were all, I'd say, quietly confident.
There was really no reason to say no. And I think I was sitting in that room and we were pulling together EHCP, and I was looking at the advice that we got in that room, and we had an occupational therapist report that we paid about £500 for. Our speech therapist was there for the best part of 3 hours. She charges, that was a few £100 because she charges for her time, and she's right to do. We had a company helping us called Resend, who help. They're a SEN advocacy company. I think they're a charity. They're really great though. They'll kind of help go through the paperwork. But again, that was more money, and I'm just thinking how much money I've actually spent to be in this room for this service that's supposed to be free, and technically it is free, but without that support, we wouldn't have got as far as we did. And we're now having to look at things like tribunal, which again will be costly, because we'll have to pay for a solicitor, and we need to get an educational psychologist out to do a report, which apparently will be really, really crucial. That's about £1,000. And it's, I'm saying this in a really flippant way, but it's a lot of money.
And it's a real barrier for a lot of people as well.
Yeah,
like you say, real barrier. They just would not be able to even get to the point where you have got to.
And that's it's horribly
which is just
unfair.
Not acceptable. It's just not okay.
It's not. And we're not minted, but we do have some savings and we have decent jobs, and we will be able to find the money to do what we need to do, by whatever means necessary. We'll be able to find it, but so many families wouldn't. And the government are aware of this, and it really isn't fair that I think I said this last time, but I think about all the children who must fall through the gaps and who don't get the support. And it's not even just a case of money. It's education. It's being able to go through all the forms. There's so much reading, so much writing, so much you have to be really articulate to be able to fight your case. And it's horrific. It's really horrific. And it's really hard, because when you speak to the people at the council, you can tell when they're just like, I don't want to make this call, I don't want to tell you this, when you're bursting into tears on the phone to you, thinking, I know that you personally it's not your fault, but you just don't have enough money. There isn't enough money. There aren't enough spaces. And from what I've been told from friends and other advice, we're we're appealing the decision at the moment. We're pushing it to go to tribunal, which will take time, probably at least a year. And a lot of cases don't bother going to tribunal because they won't win, because there's no, what they're doing is unlawful. There's no precedent to wait and see. If all the evidence suggests that the child needs to be in a specialist school, it's not. There's no reason why we would.
The evidence suggests that the statistics are the percentage of cases that are either won by tribunal or are kicked out beforehand.
Yeah. So we have to show that we're willing to go all the way to tribunal, that we're willing to spend the money. We'll probably have to spend quite a lot of the money, if not, and again, that will probably be thousands.
But it's not just money, is it? It's the stress as well. It's the impact that it has on you, on your family, on your relationships, on your other children. It's just not okay. There's a knock-on impact to all of it. How's that been in terms of over the course of sort of the last year?
Really hard. I'm like sitting here smiling a lot. Got a laugh.
Because you do, don't you, to get through.
It's been hilarious. Yeah.
I feel like the term if you don't laugh you'll cry was just coined for parents of neurodiverse children.
Yeah, it's been really hard. I had quite a lot of time off work for stress because it was just destroying me, and it was the combination of send mum stress. I don't want to say the Briony stress because it isn't her fault. It isn't her fault, but it is the admin around it is. So the send mum stress, and then a work environment that wasn't as supportive as it could have been. Yeah, the combination was just pretty soul destroying. So in recent weeks, I've actually changed jobs, which has been a really, really positive change. I think it has helped that school has been better, so I've not been having to dash out constantly, but something else I could get on my soapbox about is in terms of support for SEND parents and carers, policies and things like that. There really isn't a lot out there. I think there's probably some companies doing it very well, but a lot of companies who aren't doing it well. And, things like carers leave, our policy was you got 5 days carers leave unpaid. And it was just like, that's not really anything, is it? It's just, you still have to fill in a form and it just turns into unpaid leave. So that's not really a policy at all, is it? So yeah, it's a whole nother area where I feel like people don't realise, unless you're in it, you don't see it. You have no idea how much more parents of SEND children have to deal with, because it's like a whole nother job. I think all of us have talked before about our other children and the journey with a neurotypical child. So I have a little boy as well. He's nearly 3. All the signs currently point to him being neurotypical. It's so easy in comparison. He goes to nursery and he stays at nursery. He's hitting all his milestones. It's just so different. And it has really brought home to me just the different levels of support that are out there. And another hidden cost around it is, we pay for, he is at nursery full time because in the holidays it's just so much easier knowing he's sorted and we just have to focus on Briony, because I can't really take them out both by myself anymore. They run in opposite directions. Briony might go to a park for 5 minutes and want to go, and then I've got a toddler screaming because he wants to stay, and it's too difficult now. I could take them to a grandparent's house, but that's about the level that I would do solo. But I would say on the positive, and I was thinking about this a lot earlier, is having 2 children, a neurotypical child and a neurodiverse child. They are on such different paths that I feel like I see all of them much more clearly, and I really celebrate their achievements in a different way. For Briony, I'm excited about her listening or tapping an egg on a bowl. Like this is huge for her. But Nate doesn't stop talking, and he just gives me monologues about polar bears all the time. But that's incredible. And I think if I'd gone through all of those toddler milestones once before, I probably wouldn't enjoy them as much. And so there's something quite nice about being able to sort of see them in their own way, and just as 2 completely separate people and on 2 completely separate paths. There are pangs for sure when I do things with Nate that I struggle to do with Briony, or I've never been able to do with Briony. He's getting really into imaginative play, and I always loved doing that with my nieces and nephews. And Briony's just not. She's just never understood that imaginative play, and I really enjoy it with him. But I do, I am also sad, and I sometimes feel guilty that I enjoy these points with him because it makes me feel like I'm betraying Briony in a way, and it's a very strange, hard to explain emotion. And I think unless you've gone through it, which I know you both have, um, you probably won't get it. There's having a child who does hit the milestone and learns to talk at the right time. There was this point where I was like, well, okay, so it was nothing I did with Briony. Genuinely, that's just who she is. It's who she was always going to be. And my friends who haven't dealt with a child with a speech delay are like, oh, that's so silly that you didn't think that. My friends who have had a child with a speech delay 100% get it, because there is this voice in the back of your head thinking maybe they watch too much TV, maybe I didn't talk to them enough. And even though it's ridiculous, I think as mothers we want to try and blame ourselves somehow. I think that's what it is, which is really sad.
But also other people are telling you that.
Yeah.
Have you tried telling them?
Have you talked to them?
Have you thought about that? Do you speak directly to them? Yeah, I'm really acutely aware of the fact that they're not hitting their milestones and they're not talking when all their peers are around them.
I can completely relate, Sarah, to that. Like, as soon as my daughter started talking and doing things neurotypically, it was suddenly like a huge moment of, right, now you need to give yourself a little bit of a rest, and you need to give yourself a massive hug and realize that you did absolutely nothing wrong. But until that point, I think I would have just carried on blaming myself. There would have been something else I could have done or should have done, or something, something that, like you say, have I caused this? But as soon as she started talking, I had the same thing. It was like, you did absolutely nothing wrong. You haven't parented in any different way. Yeah, exactly.
You definitely do really celebrate though the achievements of your other one, because I think you just don't take those moments for granted as much. They start to talk and you feel it so deeply because your first one didn't have that experience, and the stress and the anxiety that comes with that, or whether it be toilet potty training, or the fact that you've gone to a nursery parents evening and they go, they're doing great. And even though I know for all of us, actually, our nursery experience was as positive as it could have been with the nursery, because we were very fortunate. You still go and you know that it's not your child's hitting the milestones, and there's really not a lot for them to feed back other than they have a great day. And you think, well, but I mean, I was actually really upset not to go to my daughter's 2-year development check. I wasn't very well, and my parents kindly took her, but I was really upset not to go. And I was upset because I have never experienced going to a development checkup and it going straight forward. And I knew she was doing what she needed to do because I'd filled in all those blasted forms and I'd done all this, and I knew it was okay. And I wanted to go, and I wanted to experience that selfishly. I wanted to go and to have that moment of, oh wow, this is what it feels like. Because bless Max, that's not been my experience with him.
Absolutely. My husband offered to go to Nate's and I was like, no, I'm going. I dare you.
Now it's my time.
I know. And with Briony's 2-year check, the health visitor called me and was like, I'm going to come to the house because you've already referred her and it sounds like she might find that environment hard. So like already it was done in a completely different way. And it's so different.
I can really relate as well, Sarah, to when you were saying about all the little milestones are a massive win for both of them. And I think we can all agree, like, I feel really grateful for that. It's like everything my daughter does is massive for me, because I'm not only experiencing it for the first time, but I'm experiencing something I should have experienced already. So it's like, it's even more special, and you just don't take anything for granted. And then with our children that are neurodiverse, you're right, it's like the tiniest things are massive wins, which I guess a lot of parents, these things would just pass them by, but for us they don't, because they're so massive.
It's so true. And I think something that is interesting as well is completely on the other side of the coin, some of the difficulties I'm having with a child who is about to turn 3, he is gone through the terrible twos. He is approaching three-nager. I didn't have this with Briony. Like
Yes.
she wasn't easy when she was about to turn 3. She had a fair few moments. I just had we just brought a tiny baby into the house, and she wasn't particularly impressed about that. But yeah, like I think people who listening who've got 2 and 3-year-olds know they go through a phase where their default setting is no. They want to do everything themselves.
Mm.
They're just really kind of motivated by wanting to be
Independent.
big. And
Yeah.
like Nate just keeps going to me, I'm not a baby. I'm like, I know. But sometimes I need to get him to do something. I go, you being a baby? And he's like, no. Oh yeah, it can be on a knife edge sometimes. And it's just, that's not something Briony did.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, yeah, as much as a lot of the experience for the SEND child is harder, and it is, not everything is, because sometimes she can be a lot more easygoing than her brother. And because I think an element of it with her is that she doesn't necessarily understand the world around her. And so sometimes she just kind of accepts that's how it is. Like if we go away, she's like, oh, I guess I'm staying here now. Whereas Nate's like, where are we? Who's here? Where am I sleeping? And so it's like really like confused about it all. And that's a bit of an exaggeration. But the first times we went away when he was old enough, he was really just confused. Yeah, it is really interesting. It's like I said, completely different paths.
What's
I feel
that
like
dynamic like, Sarah? Like, how do they get on together? Do they have a sibling relationship? What does that look like for you?
yeah, it's different. I think it's safe to say that Briony never wanted a baby brother or sister. She just never been interested in babies. Didn't know I was having a baby. Was slightly aware that my tummy had got bigger, but that was about it. And so for those first few weeks, she was actually a bit scared of him because newborns are quite animalistic. I get it. Like he was just this little thing making a noise and on her mother all the time. And then as he got a bit older and a bit more interested in her, and he always has been very interested in her, it was quite interesting watching her because she would maybe take the book away from him that he was reaching for, but she'd be quite gentle with him. She'd never lash out. And then as he got bigger, he'd start taking stuff off her. They do have they all have squabbles, and the amount of times I just watch them and laugh because it does feel quite classic sibling. Where we got some new toys a little while ago, some animals, and from Facebook Marketplace, and they were both playing really nicely with them. And me and my husband were like, oh, that's so sweet. And my husband went upstairs to get something, and he came back down, and everyone was screaming because they both wanted exactly the same one. And I was just laughing because it was just like, this is just ridiculous. It's supposed to be nice. But yeah, I think Nate's very interested in her. He talks about her a lot. And he doesn't question who she is. And sometimes I try and sort of bring it up with him, like, Brian doesn't talk, does she? And he just kind of goes, yeah, and just sort of, it's just, he just knows that that's who she is. I think she sees him as more of an irritation than anything else, but they will
an older sibling thing though,
maybe.
Partly because Max, there's definitely an element of that, of them just being irritating to them. And jealousy and all sorts of emotions wrapped up in there.
Yeah, younger siblings are very annoying. As the youngest of 3, I can attest to that.
And as the eldest, I can attest. No, I'm joking. It's hard though, isn't it, to understand quite what is a typical sibling dynamic, because I don't think we're all in the 3 of us are all in the same situation. That we've got an older one who has additional needs, and then a younger one who doesn't present like that at the moment. But we've got 2. It's hard, and nothing else to kind of compare it to. So it's hard to know. Everyone talks about like siblings don't always get on and blah blah. I don't know where the line is between, is this just typical sibling rivalry that just this is a dynamic that other people experience, or is it more, or is it I don't know. I have nothing to gauge it on, but my squabble and they fight like cat and dog, but then they can have some lovely moments too. But it's very difficult to know really what's normal per se and what's not.
Yeah, I think the thing I struggle with the most with the 2 of them is just they often both want 100% of me.
Yeah.
Their dad will be right there. He's like, hello, and they're like, not you. Oh, Mummy. And I do wonder whether, it's hard to know. I do wonder whether Briony being autistic means that she feels that connection to me a bit more strongly than the average 5-year-old. And I don't know, because I don't really know what the average 5-year-old, what is the average 5-year-old? I had them both. I was home alone with them the other night, and Briony likes one of her parents, usually me, to get into bed with her until she falls asleep, and we'll just have a cuddle. I usually fall asleep first, to be honest with you. And Nate was also refusing to go to bed, so like we were all just like squished into Briony's single bed together, and she was just like, this is annoying, but I guess like I will accept it. And yeah, it's very much she tolerates him, but she is, I wouldn't say she's affectionate with him, but yeah, she does tolerate him, and sometimes he makes her laugh, but I think that will grow. But it is, yeah, it's a funny relationship. They do make me laugh.
I think, like you say, I think as they get older, the dynamic will shift.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're both at sort of awkward ages anyway, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about what you think has changed over the last year. I guess this interview in a way gives you a bit of time to reflect. So when we last spoke, Briony was having quite a lot of meltdowns. That was obviously ahead of starting school, and you talked about it earlier, how when she was struggling at school, it was quite a lot. It was quite intense. Then over the summer, she had some support, didn't she, from one of the teachers from the school, and she's gone back, and it's been a completely different experience. She also had quite limited communication as well. You touched upon it a bit earlier, how that's kind of moved on. So yeah, what would you say are some of the kind of big changes that stand out to you?
I think her comprehension's got a lot better over the last year. She understands a lot more, and I really noticed that you can kind of explain something to her and I can see that she's listening. It's like she's just more aware of the world around her. I think a lot of autistic kids spend a lot of time in their own little worlds. That's pretty typical. Briony's no different. But yeah, I definitely think in the last 6 months, she just notices things more. And I realize she's watching, and you talk to her, and I talk to her, and I can tell she's listening to me. And even in case that we've said something around her, and she kind of responded. I can't even think of an example, but in a way that was clear that she was listening. Even in the last, I'd say, few weeks, she's got better at regulating herself. She will still have meltdowns. We used to refer to her meltdowns as turbo mode. Oh, she's not got full turbo mode, which probably isn't very nice. But when you've seen Briony in full turbo mode, it's accurate. And this is where she's just freaking out, and she can't calm herself down, and she's trying to hurt herself. She's trying to hurt you. She's being destructive, and it's just got better. And I think it's because the summer was really good for her. I think we just did a lot. We did things at her own pace. We mixed things up a lot, and then going back to school, she was happy to go back, and they'd also improved the environment there for her as well, which really helped. And we're still seeing these moments, but it's really interesting because one of the things she was doing for a while was she would go into our living room, go over to the toy kitchen, and just tip everything out of the boxes with all the toy food in, which is very annoying. It's a lot of small things. But we noticed she started to do that kind of calmly, and it was almost like that was her regulating herself. Like, I just need to like slightly destroy something, and then I'll be okay. And I've learned with her, you just have to be chilled out in those situations. Just go, fine, destroy the plastic food. It's all right. I can put it away again. Pull all the magnets off the fridge again. It's fine. You take it out on those magnets. And I think it is a lot to do with her finding her ways of just getting those feelings out. For a very long time, she would never go upstairs by herself. She would never come downstairs by herself. So she would, when we went up to bed with the bath, we'd take her upstairs, and you'd have to practically carry her or sort of hold her hand to take her upstairs. And then she wouldn't come if she woke up and in the morning. She wouldn't leave her bedroom. She wouldn't come downstairs unless, again, you were basically carrying her or with her. She wouldn't open her own door. Even these things that she's perfectly capable of doing, she wouldn't do. And then over the summer, it was like she suddenly realised that she could. And that's one of the things we've noticed now. She's up and downstairs a lot. She spends a lot more time in her bedroom, which is great because it's kind of a safe space. Because she will really always find those safe spaces, and I do think that's helping her as well. And she's just, I've noticed her learning these different skills and doing different things that aren't always great, but it is also signs of learning. So she's more interested in clothes, and I've seen her taking her socks off and on before. A little while ago, she was taking Nate's socks off and on, which was quite on him, which is quite interesting, and quite a good fine motor skill as well for her to learn. And now she comes home, takes her shoes off immediately and her socks, which is quite, again, it's a really interesting skill. It's a good skill for her to learn. On the flip side, also sometimes she then takes everything else off, which is not so good. So yeah, we come upstairs a few times, be like, where are your clothes? And it is quite funny, but it's also sometimes messy when your child is not potty trained. But it is like all of it, you just see it in a different light with a child with additional needs, because this is her learning skills and developing skills. Like, she's learned to take her clothes off. That's quite a big thing. And yeah, if she could learn to put them on again, that'd be great. But yeah, it's there's just lots of those interesting things that she's doing, and it's endlessly fascinating, really.
And that must be really reassuring for you both, because I think in your last interview, you were at quite a low point, would you say? And like you said, you were struggling to kind of see how things were going to improve. So yeah, to know that I think a message from what you've been saying is that when a child is happy and content and in an environment, they not only thrive, but you can see improvements in them, because if they're deregulated or in an environment they can't thrive, it's very difficult for them to kind of learn these new skills, really.
There's no space to learn, is there, when you're feeling like that? They're just surviving, really, and that those moments.
Completely. You mentioned over the summer we had someone from school helping out, so I was trying to find someone who could help support us a couple of days a week, and was asking around at school, and one of Briony's teaching assistants was looking for summer work, and she helped us out a couple of days a week, and that really helped. And what was great was it was a situation where I was like, am I allowed to do this? Is this okay? I wasn't sure if I should say anything. And then the head brought it up and said, no, we're really in favor of this, because we think it will be really good for her to have that consistent contact with someone at school and then at home. And we really found it made a difference. That first day of term, her TA was waiting for her, and she just ran straight to her with a big grin on her face. And it also taught us a lot about what to do with Briony at home, because we were saying to the TA, well, she needs to go out every single day. She has to leave the house. So we'll have to manage this somehow together. And maybe we'll drop you off somewhere and pick you up. And actually, when she was working with someone who was 100% engaged with her, would follow her upstairs, downstairs, wherever she was going, would push back, would push her to develop, would push her to do sort of more educational toys rather than just playing on the iPad all day. She was really calm. She was really regulated. She didn't need to go out, and it was a real learning for Matt and I, that actually that kind of intense engagement is so good for her, because if you're at home with your kid and they've run upstairs to the room, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to load the dishwasher quickly, I'm going to sort out the washing, I'm going to do that thing, or I'm going to finish work, whatever you're doing. And obviously if you're paying someone to come and work with your child, they're not thinking about those stuff, which is 100% what I want. But it is also, I think, just a reminder to sometimes the dishwasher can wait.
It's very hard when you're trying to do 100 things, and you are, as a parent, trying to do 100 things, and you can't realistically be 100% tapped into your child every single moment of the day. You've got so many stretches on your time, so it's impossible. TAs are the absolute unsung heroes. I think they are the unsung heroes, and they make such a difference. We've all experienced that, haven't we? The difference that they can make in school environment and outside.
So Sarah, what do you hope sort of the next year will look like for Briony, and sort of how are you feeling now about the future?
I would love for this time next year for her to be in a specialist school. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think in a year, I do think it will happen. But I'd love to, at least in the next year, know where she's going to be, know what the plan is, know when she's likely to start a specialist school. And hopefully we'll be there. I hope that she's, continues to do these interesting things and is developing and is more regulated, because it's really nice to see. But one of the big things that she's really developed I've really noticed her developing in the last year, is her capacity to show love. And she'll really throw her arms around you now and give you a really big squeeze, and it's just so lovely. When she comes to you and just gives you a big cuddle, and when she comes home from school, and you just think, I just love this, I love that. Yeah, she wants to show you how much you mean to her. I think I would say how I feel about the future changes every day. I feel less anxious about it, and I think that's been part of the journey. I've become a lot more what will be will be. A year ago, I was very like, when will she speak? When will she speak? I hope she learns to speak. I used to have a dream a lot that she would just suddenly start speaking full sentences. I don't have that very much anymore. Every now and then I have it, but haven't had it for several months now. And I think that's my subconscious basically just coming to the terms of the fact that she may never speak, or she may not speak in the way that we speak, in full sentences, but she is communicating, and she's trying to communicate. And I think a lot of the journey of having a child with additional needs is accepting that your expectations for them are not necessarily going to be what happens. And I think it's okay to have those expectations, because they're not mad expectations that your child will speak to you and go to school and do all these things. That's kind of what most parents expect for their children. But I think it is just kind of coming to terms with the fact that they're on a different path, and they're still them, and you're never going to love them any less. And they are still your absolute world. So yeah, I am hopeful, but I'm also I think I'm just ready to fight. I think that's the gist of it.
There was a system that supported our children properly, and I know it's a utopia, how different a conversation would be that we have with almost every single person.
Yeah.
Because no one speaks of the anger for their child, or the way that they are. The frustration always comes from the lack of support.
Yeah.
And the lack of compassion that comes from other people. And that's just the really disappointing part, isn't it?
Yeah.
We just have to hope, don't we, that with more understanding, more education,
and awareness,
and more awareness, that things will get better for the next lot,
for the next generation.
Yes,
absolutely. Our children's generation.
Paving the way for
we are.
future generations of
100%
going through this. And even for mainstream schools, I think our children have taught not only the nursery they all went to so much, but the schools they've been to so much, and how they can adapt and change the way things are to not always suit each child, but adapt in a way that will get them through the day at least, and give them some form of
that they can be flexible, and that's okay. It's not going to come, the whole education system's not going to come crashing down if they are flexible and just 100%.
So finally, Sarah, what advice do you have for those at the start of their journey?
I think a big thing is being open to the possibilities of where your child might be, that your expectation for them might not be realistic anymore, but to really enjoy them where they're at and celebrate what they're doing and be willing to fight for them. I think finding people who get it is crucial and easier said than done. I think seek help wherever you can, whether it's Senko, whether it's parents, whether it's your partner, whether it's friends, whether it's charities. There's help out there. It's hard to navigate. It's not necessarily made easy, but it does exist, and it's worth investigating, because this is a minefield. I think the other one is just take some time for yourself, because it's hard, and sometimes you just need to go out and be in a situation where no one is touching you. And you can just be, because it's full on.
I know it's not always easy, and I know not everybody has people to look after them. We struggle to have people to look after our children, so I know exactly what it's like. But it's taking yourself away from everything completely, even just for a day, to give you your strength back and give you your energy back, and it makes you a better parent just from taking that time away.
Absolutely.
Because you can get really burnt out if you're not careful. It's a lot.
Definitely.
I don't think you always even realise that you're getting to that point either.
Until you take yourself out of it.
It creeps up on you, and then you think, I really needed that. I really needed for someone not to be wanting something from me. And it's not just your neurodiverse child, it's your neurotypical child as well. They need that. It feels like your husband, everyone your work, everyone needs something from you. You're like, I've got nothing left to give.
Talking to me. The only question I want to hear right now is red or white.
Absolutely. Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and returning to give us an update on Briony, because the first episode was helpful to so many, and this one will be as well. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
It's lovely to talk to you both.
Thank you.